Good morning. This is retired Pastor Karl Schmidt from Calvary Lutheran Church in Amherst, New York, which is up in upstate New York. We're just outside of Buffalo. Well, we've got a sunny morning, which is nice. I actually had to pull the curtain, otherwise the sun would be blazing in my eyes this morning. And that's great. I mean, that's a good thing. We've had snowy, dreary, gray, kind of like everything the old battleship gray for kind of days on end. Not pleasant, and been very cold. And this morning was a little bit warmer, not breezy or windy or anything. Took dog for a walk, and it was just pleasant, except for the slippery ice. You gotta be careful for that. I took a fall with that not that long ago, a couple weeks back. That wasn't pleasant. So be careful if you're out there walking around with the ice and the snow. Anyways, well, it's Pre-Lent. We're the third Sunday of Pre-Lent in the old church calendar. It's February 14th. It's also Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day. For the Pre-Lent schedule that kicks off the Lenten season, the text assigned in the old church calendar is the Gospel of Luke, chapter 18, verses 31 to 43. And the idea in this text is that Jesus comes presenting himself as the gospel. The gospel, again, is nothing other than the story of Jesus. You and I are not in the gospel. We do not do the gospel. We are not the gospel. The gospel is nothing else than the story of Jesus. And that's what he says here. So we're going to start with verse 31 of the Gospel of Luke, chapter 18, Chapter 18, verses 31 to 43. That's the end of the 18th chapter. Then he took unto him the 12, and said unto them, Behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and all things that are written by the prophets concerning the Son of Man shall be accomplished. For he shall be delivered unto the Gentiles, and shall be mocked, and spitefully entreated, and spitted on, and they shall scourge him, and put him to death. And the third day he shall rise again. And they understood none of these things, and this saying was hid from them, neither knew they the things which were spoken. And it came to pass that as he was come nigh unto Jericho, a certain blind man sat by the wayside begging, and hearing the multitude pass by, he asked what it meant. And they told him that Jesus of Nazareth passed by. And he cried, saying, Jesus, thou Son of David, have mercy on me. And they which went before rebuked him, that he should hold his peace. But he cried so much the more, Thou Son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stood and commanded him to be brought unto him. And when he was come near, he asked him, saying, What wilt thou that I shall do unto thee? And he said, Lord, that I may receive my sight. And Jesus said unto him, Receive thy sight, thy faith hath saved thee. And immediately he received his sight and followed him, glorifying God. And all the people, when they saw it, gave praise unto God. Here ends the gospel appointed to be read for this, the third Sunday of Pre-Lent of this February 14th, 2021. Yeah, it's hard to speak this morning, apparently. Well, now, there's two ideas here, and they conflict. The first is that the gospel, Jesus, is walking through this area as he was going toward Jerusalem, and it was his purpose that, as he himself said, as Jesus had repeated from the prophets, that he would be delivered to the Gentiles, that he would be mocked, that he would be spitefully or terribly treated and spit on, and that they would beat him, whip him, and then finally put him to death, and that the third day he would rise again from the dead. Now the disciples, they couldn't understand any of these things, but Jesus here is again repeating the gospel message. It is simply the account of his life, death, and resurrection. This is the gospel. So the first thought is, what is the gospel? Well, you see, the gospel is a message which comes to us contrary to the law. It is a second word of God. The first word of God is against us. It is a word that leaves us nothing but mut in Hebrew, or thanatos in Greek, death. There is no rescue under the law. The law demands that we be perfect, that we walk with God and be perfect, that we love the Lord, our God, with all our strength, with all our soul, with all our mind, and the neighbor as ourselves. And this is impossible. Why is this impossible? Because we are broken human beings. It is not possible. The law speaks a word that is impossible to fulfill, and yet the penalty for not fulfilling is death. You see, it leaves an impossible situation. It's a must and a cannot at the same time, with a penalty that follows. And yet, from the same mouth of God, which speaks to us the law and its judgment and death, comes a second word, which is different from the first. It is different because it is greater. It is different because it is God's proper message to us. It is the message he takes delight in. And what is this message? The gospel, which is nothing other than the Greek word euangelizomai, which means a good news, a good word. That's all the gospel is a good, kind word, a word of kindness, a word of mercy. And that is simply that God the Father sent his only begotten Son, born of the Virgin Mary, to be true God, true man, to live among us, and then to be cursed with that curse wherewith we are under, that of the law, and with the penalty of the curse as well, the death. But at the same time, since he comes to us without brokenness, without the initial condition of brokenness, sin if you wish to call it that, armatia in the Greek, but he comes to us without that. And so the Father declares him to be acceptable to him. So as one by one death came into the world, by one comes life. And that's what Jesus is. He is the life and light of the world. And so this message of the gospel is the first idea here in this text. And Jesus himself preaches to us that gospel about his life. He simply recounts his life. That is the gospel. Again, I'll repeat, we're not in the gospel. We have no part of the gospel. It is the kindness of God toward us, a declaration from the same mouth of God which speaks to us the law, then decides to change our destiny from doom and death to life, compassion, forgiveness, mercy, love, acceptance. You see, this is a very different word, but from the same mouth of the same God. And so, this is wonderful. And so people gathered around Jesus as he traveled to hear this word. But there's a second thought in here, and it's not so nice. It's what people do with the gospel. I've been a pastor for, I'm retired now, but 35 some years. It's a long time. And unfortunately, I've had the great displeasure to also see this in action, where people who have the gospel presented to them, preached to them, taught to them, because that is what I spent my working life doing, preaching and teaching, which, according to the Lutheran writings, the Lutheran confessions, is the work of a pastor, predigen und lehren, in the old German, Article 14 of the Augsburg Confession, if you need to be more specific. That is the only task and job of the pastor. That is his proper work, predigen und lehren. And then on top of that, in a physical way, is the administration of the sacraments, which is nothing but the word with water, baptism, and the word with wine and bread, which is the sacrament of the Lord's Supper. But again, it is the primary thing, the word. And to preach it and to teach it. But during that same time, I have seen people love to hear the word preached and taught, but at the same time, I have also seen the same thing happen in this text. And verse 39, and the ones that went before rebuked this man who needed help. He was blind. But they told him to it comes from the Greek word is segeso. Segeso. Wow. I'm dyslexic, by the way, if you haven't noticed over the time. And so sometimes it's difficult for me to pronounce some things. That comes from the root segao in Greek, which means to keep quiet, shut up, or be silent. It's a rebuke. It's a harsh rebuke. And it's not pleasant. It's horrible. And you know what? I've seen this. I have seen people who think they deserve the gospel word, who look at other people who they think don't deserve it, for whatever reason. Now, the people in this particular walk with Jesus looked at this poor man who was blind, and for whatever reason that was in their minds, they looked down on this person, and they told him to shut up, be quiet. Except that Jesus knew he was there, of course, and came to a stop and called for him to be brought over and spoke to him and helped that man and told him that his faith had benefited him even with his sight. Of course, you know what's really funny? Though he was physically blind, he saw better than the rest of that crowd, because he saw that Jesus is for everyone. That Jesus is for everyone. There are no qualifications. Why? Do you think your brokenness is somehow a lesser brokenness? You see, this is where people don't understand what sin is. They don't understand its brokenness. They think it's a laundry list of things you do or they do or we do or someone does as compared to your little list of things that you do. Brokenness, sin if you want to use that word, that's not what it even is. It's not what you do, it's who and what you are. It's your very existence is sin. You and I are in fact a living, breathing, offensive thing to the ever-living Almighty, the El Shaddai, the Elohim, the Theos, the Kyrios, the Lord God Almighty. Nothing but a living, breathing, offensive blech. I don't care who you are. I don't even give a who you think you are. I'm a pastor and it describes me real well. Because I'm a dad, I'm a pastor, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. And you know, it's funny. We'll be my granddaughter and I will be like sorting M&Ms on the table with different colors, and I'll sneak one. She'll go, "Oh, Pop Pop." She calls me Pop Pop. "Oh, Pop Pop, bad." Now this is from a 3-year-old at the time. You know that when your 3-year-old granddaughter looks at you and very earnestly says, "Oh, Pop Pop, bad," and she means it. Well, when God says that, he means it. I know that. I'm not just stupid. You see, if you don't understand, if you look at the idea of sin and brokenness still as a laundry list of things you do or don't do, or things that others do or don't do, then you have it all wrong. You don't understand anything. Maybe my granddaughter, when she was 3, understands better than you. It's not a list. It's not doing. It's not what we do or don't do. It's existing. It's just our existence. The only question you have to ask yourself is, do you exist? If the answer is yes, then you're broken, and then you need that gospel. And the gospel is see, it's not something we do. It's not something we deserve. It's not something we're in. It's not something we're part of. It's not something we complete or have any hand in whatsoever. It's a word that comes from the mouth of the Father in the life of his Son that speaks for us. The law speaks against us all. There is none that is righteous, no, not one. I mean, that's pretty inclusive. But the gospel says God so loved the world. That's also inclusive of every existent being that's human. That's it. And see, even though this man was blind that was on that roadside there, he saw this better than those sighted people, by far. Not only was he better seeing, he was more brilliant, by far. And in faith, he knew who this Jesus that was before him had come for to be a help to him. Now, if you're going to call yourself a Christian, if you're going to speak about Christian things, and if you present the word in some other fashion, well, then you've got it wrong. Because the gospel is a word toward and for every human existence. And you do not, neither do I, have the right to decide who it's for, or who it's excluded from, or for what. It comes to a race of brokenness, and it heals that it declares. It doesn't change our sin. It doesn't stop us from sinning even. But it's simply a declarative word from the mouth of the Father, spoken for you, saying that you are forgiven, that the cross of his Son, in the death of his Son, you have died too, to that penalty of sin. And that in the resurrection of his Son, in the life of his Son, you too live forever before him. Not as enemy, but as friend. Better, as a son or daughter. To live with him forever. A child of God. Children of the resurrection. And that's for everyone. That already includes everyone. So no one decides who the gospel is for except the mouth who speaks it, God the Father. And he's already said for whom he has done this, all the world. That's it. Period. So, well, happy Valentine's Day. Wear a mask. Keep social distance. When you have the opportunity to get your vaccine shots, please go get them. If your doctor thinks that you're allowed and capable of getting that thing, please go get it. Wear a mask. That's for anybody and everybody. You don't have to ask your doctor if you can wear a mask, I don't think. I mean, is there some medical thing where you can't wear a mask? I don't know. Well, ask your doctor. I guess if your doctor tells you can't wear a mask, that's one thing, but otherwise, wear your mask. Don't be a problem in life. We have enough problems. Everyone's been living living scared of a virus that can kill you. I mean, it's what? Over 100 million people have been infected for sure, diagnosed, and over 2 million are dead. So that's at least 2% plus. Just do simple math. Come on. 2 out of 100 is 2+% when it's over 2. You don't have to be brilliant or even smart to know that. A fifth grader can figure that fraction out, that percentage. 2 over 100 is 2%. So, what is the regular flu? I don't know. Tiny fraction. Anyways, be careful. Don't be a fool and cause trouble in this world. We have enough of that. The insanity in this country, and be a good citizen. We have a democratic republic. We elect representatives to serve us and public servants to serve us. And don't be a fool. Don't go around spouting lies and trash. Look what that got us on January 6th. Riots and discord, and you cannot possibly call yourself a Christian and do something like that. What kind of citizen? Part of Christian responsibility is to be a good citizen. And I can tell you without even thinking twice, that is not being a good citizen. That's being a criminal, that type of activity. It's assaulting police officers, killing police officers. Just went to work to do their job. And what a wonderful job it was working at the Capitol. I visited as a child. I thought, wow, what a place. What a wonderful place. Until human refuse attacked it. That's not a Christian thing. Don't ever associate that with anyone who's actually Christian. I can assure you as a retired Christian pastor, Lutheran, that there is nothing remotely Christian about that activity. Nothing. And that is to be condemned in the most harshest terms. And I hope the government pursues every single one who did that to all of us, because those houses of Congress belong to all of us. I'm still completely just aghast that people would do that. What's wrong with these sick people? Well, anyways, it's Valentine's Day. I don't want to go on about that, but make sure that kind of trash doesn't come out of your mouth, especially if you consider yourself a Christian. That's evil. Just to make that plain and simple. All right. Well, be good. Be careful. Try to do your best to stay well, and when you get a vaccine, get it. And have, under those circumstances, a nice, happy Valentine's Day if you can. All right. Bye-bye.